security highlights today.
Would you like? And it just appears.
No
charge.
Beautiful.
I'm buzzing.
Beautiful.
This might be heaven.
Good to hear. And you will be speaking on
coffee
our
station
forum stage later on.
Yeah. I think in a couple of hours. And just talking a little bit about LGBT, the LGBT space, and what it means to
you will be speaking
always
on coffee
become,
station.
as some people say, normative, identity or identities, which is, I think, a fascinating conversation to have, particularly now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Dustin, we are asking our attendees 3 big tech questions. They're up on the wall here behind us. How important are college degrees? Does tech have a problem with sexism, racism, classism, or ageism? And what do we think the job losses caused by AI will look like? I thought that we can move away from the tech industry for yourself, and we'll get your take on the 3 big questions of the day. So I'm going to give you a sticker here.
Yeah.
And the first question is, how important are college degrees? Are they absolutely crucial, absolutely meaningless, and then for few positions or for all positions? Did you go to college yourself?
I did. I went to UCLA.
Okay.
And I do have an opinion on this, because I think, here's the thing, is it crucial to get the job? Perhaps not. But is it helpful to do the job well? Sure thing. So I would say it's certainly not in the meaningless department. I'd say it's closer to crucial, because as a filmmaker, you want to understand as much about the world as possible, and explore the world as much as possible. So I would sort of put it up in here.
Yeah.
And then in terms of for all positions or for few positions, there's really no one's checking your resume when you get a job as a filmmaker for really any positions. So I would say.
And what about for writers more broadly? I mean, like, is it something that you're born with? Is it something that you kind of learn, or is it kind of a little bit of both?
Being a writer, I think it's something that can be learned. I never wanted to be a writer. It was something I started to do because it didn't cost any money. It didn't need any backing. I come from a broke family, and so there's no financing. I was waiting tables. I was serving coffee and orange juice, and I would go home at night and I'd write.
Okay.
And in that way, I was able to be creative. I could see the movie, the film in my mind, or the show in my mind. And I think it's just with the hours and hours and hours you put into it, combined with a good, healthy bit of viewing and reading. You gotta read if you're gonna write. Then you can learn it.
And like, who do you read now, and who were you reading? Like growing up, and who really inspired you to go and become a writer?
Growing up, I read a lot of Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh yeah.
Because I was sort of a genre kid, but I liked the humor.
Yeah.
And then now I read a ton of nonfiction.
Okay.
And most of that's because that's kind of the pigeonhole I found myself in, is taking true stories and bringing them to the screen. And so usually my homework assignments are reading, and it's a stack that's quite high. Every now and then I treat myself to a bit of fiction.
But everything is based on a true story, and in some level, I think.
In some way or another. I do say, I think that's really smart. To so many of the people who want to be filmmakers, don't be mad at me, film schools around the world. But I say one of the most valuable things you can do is study literature or history. Mm-hmm. And in those are, the storylines of humanity, of us as people, the things that transcend time and generations you can find in great literature. Mm-hmm. Pick up some Russian literature and discover how cinematic it was before there ever was a cinema.
Yeah. And of course, as we said, Alec, you won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay back in 2008 for Milk, and that obviously, Alec was based on a true story, the story of Harvey Milk. You were talking earlier about how your panel will be about LGBT rights globally. Obviously, Harvey Milk came from a different time. How much of a different time is it, though, really? Have we seen much progression since the days of Harvey Milk?
We have, but I do think history is a pendulum.
Yeah.
Certainly civil rights are a pendulum. And I would say in Harvey's time, he was facing a backlash. There were these very conservative religious folks who were trying to erase any protections for LGBT people in the time, and he rose up and fought against that. And we find ourselves in a similar time now, where the pendulum that had been swinging forward really quite rapidly. Around the world, some places more than others, is now starting to swing backwards. And we're seeing how the lack of leadership from the United States on LGBT issues is now opening the door for many nations to start to discriminate and to create these hunts against LGBTQ people. So we are in that backlash period. I would ask my brothers and sisters in the LGBT movement to heed the lessons of Harvey Milk, which wasn't just to come out, that's important, but it's also to create alliances with other civil rights movements. We cannot do this in isolation. If we are myopic, self-interested, only care about our letter in LGBT, or only care about our LGBT family, we're destined to see more Trumps. Because that self-focus, that selfishness, which might feel necessary, is short-sighted. And it leads to the election of people like Donald Trump. Because divided, we can be conquered. So I would say, you know, the great thing Harvey Milk did, and he did it with a lot of humor and a lot of grace, is he reached out to really unexpected allies, like these working-class white truck drivers in California who weren't getting paid a living wage, and he had all the gays boycott a brand of beer that wasn't paying them a living wage. That beer stopped selling. It finally caved so that the gays would start buying it again. And now these truck drivers had union, jobs and could pay for their talented kids' educations. It's that kind of thinking, that bridge building, that we need to see again.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, Judith Butler, in her most recent book, she talks about she takes great hope from the moments of unexpected alliances that could hark back to, do you suppose, like back in the miners' strike, which was just an incredible story. A young Marxist from Port Rush who brought his local LGBT society and got them to support striking miners, and I think I would take moments of hope like that.
It's really an important lesson, and it made for another good movie too.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on the board here. As we were saying, yes, the pendulum is swinging back a little bit. The question is, does tech have a problem with? Let's just focus on society, or maybe your own industry, the film industry. This is a multiple choice question, and you can answer as many times as you want, because we don't want to play different struggles off against each other. But do you think that we have a problem with sexism, racism, classism, or ageism?
Well, I want to say the intersection between cinema, film, television, storytelling, and tech, there are many. And we're becoming one thing. So there's not really that divide, is there? I watch almost everything off my computer now, or I stream it to my television. So, and the way we market it is all through tech. So, storytelling and tech are really intertwined, and I think they have the promise of a really bright future together as we start to take things in a increasingly more non-linear fashion. As things become more immersive, the experience becomes more immersive. I do think we're at the beginning of this idea of how you tell stories visually, orally, and what we're going to trip up on in my business is that we still see that the majority of the creators are white, heterosexual men. And bless them. They do great stuff with that's mostly about white heterosexual men, and I want to watch that stuff. But I would also like to see representations in film and television that are more reflective of the world I actually live. Far more diverse things like that. So when I look at this,
actually on that, Lionel Shriver caused minor controversy recently, where she talked about how she doesn't believe in cultural appropriation. And she believes that any writer should be able to tell anyone's story. Who do you think should tell people's stories, should tell oppressed people's stories?
Well, I think we all can tell, we're creative people, so we have the ability to tell stories about people who are very different than us. Yeah. That's just part of being creative. What I would say is, when you're doing that, so I've done that. I just had a series come out that is incredibly diverse. I'm a white gay guy. So I had better not be so arrogant as to not go ask a lot of questions, not bring in other writers or other sources who know that experience because they've lived that experience. I think that would be really short-sighted. So I say if there's a white male heterosexual showrunner who wants to depict people who are more diverse in different ways than he is, then just hire them. Why not bring these folks in? If you're writing a show that has depictions of trans people in it, why not hire trans people? Won't that help it be more authentic? I don't understand why you wouldn't. So I don't think it's saying that we can only write exactly who we are. But when we write about things that are different than our experience, do the research, collaborate. Don't be so arrogant as to think that you can do it without first asking a lot of questions and bringing more people into your fold. And that's what Hollywood needs to do more of. I say if you want to see more diversity in Hollywood, start with the writers' rooms and make sure that they are as diverse as our world is. And we're not quite there yet. We're not there in terms of gender or race. Probably not in terms of class or age. And it's funny, some writers' rooms lean older and some are much younger. Yeah. So this is a tough one for my business because we have a lot of work to do. Yeah. So what are you going for? So I feel like I have to do. It's not a cop out. Yeah. That's saying let's get to work. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Good stuff. Well, listen, we have one last question here. This is kind of a double question. We have the job losses caused by AI. Will they be very significant, very insignificant? Will they never happen, or will it be soon? And as you can see, people are leaning towards they're going to be significant and soon. Where do you stand?
So I think in my business, there's different ways to be creative. I think some ways we depend on the originality of the human spirit and the human mind, and I don't know that will be replaced anytime soon. But in post-production, in particular. In the world of special effects and visual effects, which is becoming this massive field in our business, I do think that AI will be able to start doing some of those jobs. Yeah. I would imagine. I think that's going to happen very quickly because it's, about the bottom line, isn't it? And so, unfortunately, I think it's going to be significant. I wouldn't put very because I think that there's always going to be a human element needed in what I do. But I think it's going to be significant, and I think it's going to be very soon. It's on the way. Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, that is just about it for this particular stream. If you're joining us late, we are here live from Web Summit Day 1 with Dustin Lance Black. Dustin, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope your panel goes as well as I know it will.
Well, me too. Yeah. Me too. Thank you very much. This is great.
So, guys, for now, thanks for watching, and good luck.